Welcome to Chamber Chat, the business solutions podcast designed to help your company thrive. I'm your host, Charles Stannis. Healthy employees have a better job performance, are more productive, spend less on health insurance, and take fewer sick days. Join us as we sit down with Megan Greer from Blue Zones Project of Southwest Florida to talk about what you can do to cultivate a healthier workforce and how it will improve your bottom line. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for being here. We're joined with Megan Greer from the Blue Zones Project of Southwest Florida. She is a worksite lead. So tell us, Blue Zones of Southwest Florida, I know you guys have been here for a couple years. You've been really focused in Collier County and Naples, and you're making your way up here into Lee and Bonita and Estero. For those that are listening that aren't really sure of what Blue Zones is, tell us all about it.
Tell you a little bit about it. All right. Well, thanks for having me. We're really happy to be a part of your podcast series. And so the Blue Zones Project is it's a local community health and wellness initiative that's all over Southwest Florida, but it's based on a international study that was done by Dan Buettner, who's a National Geographic Fellow, and he went around the world to find the places in the world where people live the longest. And so he went on like a 3-year expedition all over the world and found 5 pockets of places where people regularly live to be over 100 years old.
Right.
And so what he did with those places that he found, they researched them. They came down with about 9 commonalities that each community, their kind of lifestyle pattern.
Their culture.
Right, yeah. So, what are they doing? Why is this happening? And those 9 principles we now call the Power 9. And we are trying to basically implement those principles down here in Southwest Florida. So we work with people, places, and policy to implement small...
The 3 Ps.
The 3 Ps, small nudges toward better health. So one of the big key components is looking at our built environment. So how our life around us and the things that are around us impact our health. Because they always influence our choices, because we make choices based on what's available to us.
Oh, yeah. And what's easiest to us most of the time.
Right, yeah. So I may choose to walk to the store if that's an opportunity for me, but if there's no safe place to walk, I'm not going to walk to the store.
Right.
I would get in my car and
90
drive.
degrees outside, that probably plays a big role in it as well.
Torrentially downpouring. So looking at those things, and then that store that I'm walking to, does it have healthy choices for me? Or is it more set up like a quick convenience store with mostly sugar? That all impacts, at the end of the day, what I put in my body, how much activity I've had, and whether or not I'm holding up a healthy balance in my life. So,
absolutely, yeah. So I mean, I can imagine, you talked about, the 3 Ps and how it plays a big role. I can imagine, for professionals and for the work site, it's a huge component.
Absolutely.
Especially down here where, small business is so relevant, mental, physical stress, productivity, creativity.
Right.
I know for me, if I'm stressed out or if I'm tired, my creativity level plummets.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? So, I'm always looking, to kind of de-stress and make sure I'm, as good as I can be to perform for what I want to do. So, talk about a little bit about your role and, how you've been able to kind of help open that door for all of us down here.
Yeah, so my P is places, and that's, for me, it's work sites. And so what I get to do is go into work sites and help them identify things that they can do, and sometimes they're already doing, that really help the overall health and wellness of their employees.
Just not aware that they're doing.
Right, yeah. So sometimes some of those things, like when we look at the Power 9 and those 9 principles for healthy, long living, 6 of them have to do with belonging and having a purpose and having people in your life that not only care about you, but that are fostering your healthy lifestyle. So they are contributing to healthy choices and healthy behaviors. So we tend to, when we're around healthier people, we tend to be healthier. When we're around, when we're around people that don't make the best choices, we tend to be less healthy. So
I call them my influencers.
Exactly. And sometimes we don't even know. So it's even like sometimes if you have somebody who's really negative, you can tend to be more negative with them, which isn't great for you. So, surrounding yourself with positive people, and making sure that your work team is working towards resiliency, stress management, healthy breaks, and then also healthy eating, a little bit of movement, things like that. So really important pieces of worksite creativity is just like taking micro breaks and things that we maybe think like, oh, well, I shouldn't stop working because I'm supposed to be, we spend a third of our lives at work and we're supposed to be working for those 8, 9, 10-hour days or whatever. But like you're saying, with really needing your creativity, if we're just staring at a computer in one stagnant space, where does your creativity go?
Right.
You're not fostering that. You're not giving yourself a break away from your computer to kind of just have some joyous, relief and let your brain kind of replenish and come up with some great ideas. So some of those things that you would maybe traditionally think like that you're not supposed to do, that is what really Blue Zones is encouraging to do. So things like you have your dog here today, having a chance to just have fun and
every Friday
utilize him to connect with your employees and your team, but also taking that time away for a minute to de-stress with your dog. It gives your brain a chance to kind of open up again and think about some more creative solutions for whatever project you're working on. So
I'm glad you brought it up. Every Friday we bring them in. It's a huge hit, not only for our office morale, but for the visitors that we have come in. I mean, they're most of the people that come in are dog people, right? You always ask them, and then even you, you lit up when you saw them, right?
Yep,
so it's a great way. Something simple that you might not think about. Now, obviously, we're very fortunate that I'm able to bring them in every Friday.
Right, yeah.
Some office workplaces it doesn't make sense.
Right. Or
right.
It's not
but
safe
I mean, for us, it works out great, and a lot of our members, a lot of the visitors coming in, they love to see them.
Right.
So right away, it puts that smile on their face, right?
And
when they're smiling, you're smiling.
Right.
And it's great.
And it's that little, it's the backside of that is, being around dogs in particular brings our blood pressure down.
See, that I didn't know.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Yeah. So there's a lot of studies out there on having pets, and particularly dogs, really, they do impact your emotional health as well. So
that's really cool.
It's really a great tool to have. And dogs are funny, I think they kind of remind us sometimes to just chill out. They sleep a lot. My dog, every time I walk her, she stops to smell the flowers, and it's hilarious to me, but it's like that reminder of like,
stop and smell the roses,
slow down
right?
And, smell the exactly. So it's really beneficial to have them around. So it's an awesome thing that you guys get to have. So
we started doing it years ago, and it just kind of stuck. Friday is take your dog to work day.
I love it.
It's awesome. We talked a lot about stress and the workplace itself. Are there any easy tips that people can do for their own workplace, so their office?
Absolutely.
So where they spend the vast majority of their time.
Right, at their desk or in their office.
Desk.
Absolutely. So some of the things to really be cognizant of are what does your desk, how is it set up? Are you able to sit, stand, move freely? Those pieces are really important. Sitting for an extended amount of time is not good for us.
Plus, it makes you feel miserable.
Yeah, it makes you feel miserable, but you also become less productive. So this sounds so silly and simple, but when you're sitting, and let's say you need to go get something off the printer or you need to grab a few things, when you're sitting, you tend to think, oh, well, when I get up, I'll go do all of that.
Right.
However, when you're standing, you're already standing, so you just go do it. So you're already so much more efficient, but you can have, you can be standing there and take your little micro knee bends and kind of keep your blood flowing and things like that. And then you just tend to move about your business and do the things that you need to do instead of saying, well, I'm sitting now. When I get up, I'll do whatever.
As our staff walks right on by us, right? All of them all at once.
Exactly.
No, I will say we've got sit-stand desks here at our office, and I absolutely love them.
Yeah.
I notice a difference from when I'm sitting to when I'm standing, from a from a creativity standpoint, from a productivity standpoint. When I'm standing, it just flows naturally, right? It's so much easier.
You naturally tend to, as you're standing, you tend to, you feel your body a little bit more, so you will do a little bit of micro stretching. You'll move your arms around more. So it sounds like silly almost,
it makes sense.
but you do. When you're standing, you move your body more just out of out of necessity for, like, oh, this leg's tired, I'm going to shift my weight, whatever. So those little things make a big difference. And then you tend to also allow your shoulders to drop. A lot of times our shoulders are in our ears. And we don't notice that our keyboard may be too high.
As I shift around here.
And so you've got your shoulders and your ears and your neck's crunched. And if your screen is not neutral, so that you're looking straight ahead. So if you drew like a line out from your eyes to your screen, it should be straight ahead. If it's down,
so see, that's one thing I noticed with every other monitor, because I have the risers.
Right.
And I notice that immediately when I see someone, whether they're working or whether they're on a laptop, and I'm noticing like their neck is just like all the way down. And that's the first thing that I pick up on, and that's what bothers me when I don't see that.
And the other important thing about that, especially when you're sitting, is that the more that your head is tilted down, it adds, almost every degree adds 10 more pounds of pressure on your lower back. So when you're sitting, that's even more pressure. So you're looking at, some risk there too. And if you're somebody that, doesn't have the luxury of being super mobile, either throughout their day or because, they have, let's say, an injury or something like that, sitting and not having correct ergonomics can make it even worse on you. So when you're standing, you tend to keep your head up a little bit more straight anyway. So having the opportunity to sit and stand, but making sure that your screen is as directly in front of you as possible is quite important.
So what you're saying is when we do the next podcast, we should be standing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we should be out walking. On the highway, it might be a little loud for everybody. But walking meetings are also something that are really productive, especially if your team is needing like a creativity brainstorm. Go outside and walk while you're brainstorming, and if you need to, you're not going to be like taking notes and walking at the same time. Record what you're talking about, so you can go back to it. Or
flip out your phone. Everyone's got a little note app on their phone.
Yeah, absolutely. But that walking, you're getting your blood flowing, you're stimulating your brain, and it will help you come up with more creativity. And being outside, I think, as anybody knows, just being in the green and the sun and everything else.
Especially down here, where it's so nice out most of the year.
Instantly stimulates more creativity in us.
I will tell you
that's the grounding that everybody needs on a daily basis.
Well, what works for us, or our office, is, we'll have lunch, and then, after lunch you get a little sluggish, right? It's like that 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, it hits you, like, ugh. So what we've started doing, and I love it, we'll ask, hey, you want to go for a walk? 5 minutes outside. It's usually nice out. You come back, and then you're good to go. And like you said, it only takes 5 minutes, and you'd be surprised how much recharge and how much you can get done in that 5 minutes from a mental standpoint.
And I encourage people that have the luxury of doing this, taking a mid-afternoon break. I used to leave for the gym around 3:30, and I would come back to work at like 5, and I'd work from 5 to 7 or something like that. The most work I ever got done was in that 5 to 7 period. And, Dr. Weiss, who's now the medical director of Blue Zones, he was telling me the other day that JFK used to do that. He would work in the morning, and then he would go for a swim at lunch, take a quick nap, and then he would come back and finish his evening, working from like 3 until 7 or whatever. So taking that break is such a good mental restore, but also gives you another like second wind that'll make you super productive. So, but that's an extreme case as far as that much time. 5 minutes.
Most people don't have that time, right? So the 5 minutes.
5-10 minutes. But encourage yourself to do that. Set a timer on your computer that reminds you after another hour or change. Move around, if you have a quick, just walk outside and walk around the building and come back in. I promise you, it will behoove your creativity and your productivity tremendously. Really recommend that. And then the other thing about your own workplace is really making sure that obviously you're eating healthy, but those quick workplace snacks tend to be packaged, and that's a hard thing, especially if you do a lot of networking or run around town as part of work. Having healthy snacks with you really makes things easier, not only on your wallet but on your body. So I recommend it's something as easy as an apple and some almonds, but if you need packaged because you don't know when the next stop you're going to have, or you need to eat on the go or whatever, plant-based options like Lara Bar or like Kind bars, things like that are mostly plant-based, very low sugar. The one thing that I always tell people to watch out for is in packaged goods in particular is the line now that's required by the FDA since 2018, but they now have to denote added sugars.
I've seen that.
So you'll see
Yep.
when you look at the sugar content, you'll see sugars. The first line is naturally occurring. So in a Lara bar, say you get the cherry pie. It's just unsweetened cherries and nuts. That's all it is. There's 20 grams of sugar, but that's naturally occurring sugar. And then it says added sugars 0. So what you really should be paying attention to is that added sugar.
Gotcha.
Because some
That's all the extra
bars
stuff they
and
put
things
in.
like you'll
Yeah.
find 17 grams of added sugars, things like that. So really being aware, because sugar is really what throws us, and so many studies are coming out now that are proving that what we eat really is impacting our mental health. And so when you're having those sugar highs or sugar rushes and things like that, you can see higher rates of anxiety, depression, and sometimes you'll go through those waves a couple of times a day.
Throughout the day, yep.
So really watching
What
that.
about protein bars?
So protein bars.
I know that's everyone's favorite.
Yeah.
It's easy, right? You see it on the
It's
shelf,
easy,
you pick
grab
it up.
it, go. And I don't think there's, it's processed, so I would use them a little bit more sparingly, but again, watch that sugar content. So I would recommend like Quest bars. Usually have like 14 grams of fiber, which is great for everybody, and they usually have 1 gram of sugar or less, something like that. So really watch the sugar content on those, like Gatorade bars, or some of the other, like I'm trying to think, a couple other, they have sometimes 25 grams of sugar, if not more. And so really being careful that you're not accidentally shooting.
Well, I'm glad you said that,
foot.
because another thing I noticed with that is Greek yogurt.
Yeah.
You really got to watch that, because I pick them up and I look at the back, and some of them, they've got almost 30 grams of sugar, and I'm like, that's a candy bar.
Absolutely, yeah. So you got to be really careful. So if you are a sugar eater, I recommend like Siggy's is a brand. It's Icelandic skyr, which I don't even know what skyr. It's like a cultured milk, but very modestly processed, and that they usually have about 10 grams of sugar. But
right.
That I think is probably the most important thing to look at when you're running around with snacks in the office, is watching out for that. Right,
because no one wants the sugar crash.
No.
Then you're going to need the walk afterwards.
Absolutely, and that really leads to some grogginess too. So those are quick things, and just paying attention to how whole is it is always best, because that'll.
I usually say, like, if it's in a package or if it's in a box.
Second choice.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, of course, like you said, looking at sugar content and added sugars. I didn't know that, so that's great.
Yeah. So important pieces, and then the other point, and Blue Zones focuses a lot on plant-based eating, and another thing that I'll say about that is when you look at your stomach, like if you're looking at a picture of your stomach, that's one of my favorite little memes, but you can look at what it looks like to have 400 calories of oil in your stomach. So let's say your stomach is, for lack of better illustration, your stomach's a circle, and oil would just cover maybe 1/8 of an empty stomach.
Right.
If you add a little bit of protein, maybe 1/4. But if you intake 400 calories of plants, it's your entire stomach. So it fills your entire stomach with 400 calories of nutritious, vitamin-rich plants. So that will hold you over so much longer.
Yeah, it keeps you full.
Than something that's not healthy for you, or and there's balance. There's always space for a little bit of oil and protein. However, if you want to stay full and well nourished for the whole day, plants really is that's that whole concept of volume over kind of the density piece.
Right.
So, and it takes you longer to digest.
What about?
You're just sipping water.
Well, I was going to say, what about water?
Water is super important.
Is there like a amount? What should you try to take? I mean, if everyone's different, obviously, right? I mean, I've got this huge thing in front of me, but
yeah, absolutely. And I have this analogy, and I drink, I don't know, probably 7 of these a day. I'm a camel, so but generally you want to on the water part, it helps with digestion, it helps with the transportation of vitamins and minerals throughout your body, and lubricating joints a little bit too. But typically for women, adult women, you want to try to get 3 quarts, and then about 1 gallon for men a day. So
I know for me it helps because it kind of suppresses my appetite too, right? Because I'm constantly drinking it. You know, little sips throughout the day. It just kind of reminds me, like, oh, kind of tricks my body, like, hey, I'm eating or drinking something.
Right.
So for me, it works.
And that gets into a conscious awareness too. So a lot of times, our feeling of hunger can tend to be more stress or anxiety. If we're feeling like I really shouldn't, you know, I've eaten well today thus far, maybe I'm not really hungry, and so that really encouraged us to stop for a minute and just, you know, even try some box breathing and make sure that it's actually hunger that you're feeling before you eat, as opposed to maybe you just
not
need
bored
to,
or
bored, or you're a little bit stressed out or whatever, just so that you're constantly like in harmony with your body. So box breathing is just like a deep breath in for 5 seconds. I almost said 5 minutes. That's a long time to hold your breath. 5 seconds. Deep breath in, 5 seconds. Hold it for 5 seconds, and then let it go. Exhale for 5 seconds. So those things too help to re-stimulate your brain, calm your brain down a little bit. So we've been doing that for like 3 minutes as one of your micro breaks throughout the day. Can really help you to kind of get back to homeostasis, and then check in with yourself. And then if you are still hungry, you know, eat up or whatever. But I think we tend to be more stressed than we should be, and sometimes we eat feeling like it's hunger, but it's not really hunger.
So I know one of the things that, you know, really works with our office now. We only have 6 employees, so it's a little bit different. But you know, we typically on a weekly basis, more than once, you know, we'll all come together and we'll have lunch.
Yeah.
You know, we'll take that, you know, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, we have lunch. We connect on a professional level, on a personal level. It kind of de-stresses everyone out.
Absolutely.
You know, what are some ways that you can help implement that? Because, you know, it's hard because, you know, not everyone will eat lunch at the same time, right? People might have meetings, they might be running out, they might be on the road. You know, how can people coordinate that? How can they make that easier to get their whole team on board for that?
Right. Well, so one of the things you can do, one of the things that we do at Blue Zones is we set at least once a month, like team lunch, where we'll all go together. So that's something
Taco Tuesday?
We haven't done Taco Tuesday. That's a good idea, though.
Oh, we love, that's our favorite.
That's a
Taco
great
Tuesday.
idea. But and like you're saying, that really helps you guys to connect on a deeper level. So a lot of our friends in our adult life come from work, and there's, you know, studies out now that are saying that really we're down to about 1.5 friends in our life. And that's something we really have to work on, because
even though you have 1,600 Facebook followers, whatever it is.
But how real is that? You know what I mean? Like, can they come over and help you move on a Saturday? No, you know.
Sorry, I'm busy.
Sorry, I'm busy, or I live in, you know, Norway. I don't know, whatever. But so making a concerted effort to have a time together that you are all going to agree to, you know. So if you do it once a month, then that's something you can all put on your calendars. But even on the weekly, it gives your team a time to check in with each other, because sometimes, you know, there's something going on at home or whatever, you may be a little bit off, and that gives you an opportunity just to kind of share and to touch base with everybody, so that your connection piece is real. But also, one of the most important pieces of the Wellbeing 5 study that we offer to work sites through Blue Zones is one of the things they measure is there somebody at work that cares about you? You know, do you come into work feeling like, okay, if I need some help or I need somebody to talk to, that I have that person there? That's really
your
important.
office culture.
And so that can be fostered through your lunchtime together. And then you also, if you guys are focused on, like you guys are an approved work site, you're focused on making healthy choices. When you all sit down to the lunch table, it's just natural to talk about, like, what do you have today? And, you know, like, you know, when you're a kid, trading snack packs or whatever. But now you're looking at what's coming from home, what you cooked last night, typically sharing recipes and things like that, and ideas for healthier options and things like that. So there's a lot of connection and education on each other that happens during that lunch time. So when you can make it happen, it's an important thing. And then again, you're also taking a step away from your desk and your work, and giving your brain that brain break. So there's a lot of important pieces that come with walking away from your desk. So even though a lot of people like to just eat through lunch or work through lunch, I mean, it's not.
Yeah,
really
I usually,
the best
no matter
practice.
how busy I am, I try to set aside maybe even 5 to 10 minutes, right, where I'm eating and I'm just doing something completely different, right? So whether it's going through my phone, looking at text messages, just trying to reply to friends or family, or surfing YouTube, just kind of take my mind off things.
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah. And so, and there's another piece of another one of the Power 9 is haribachibu, which is Okinawan for basically eating till you're 80% full instead of eating till you're stuffed. And so
Guilty of that.
Conscious eating is really important, and so that they generally say that before they eat is kind of like their own little blessing, haribachibu. But it encourages us to, when you're eating in front of your computer or a screen, you tend to not really be paying attention to your stomach talking to your brain, telling it, okay, we're good to go, we've eaten enough. And so it can distract you from just being conscious and being present while you're eating. And so unplugging from whatever you're doing to have your meal is really important. And it allows for that time to digest. It usually takes about 20 minutes for our stomach to tell our brain we're good to go. So even important things like taking a bite and putting your fork down, and
That's
just
tough for
enjoying
fast
that.
eaters.
Yeah. I mean, literally, my family used to say, "Oh my gosh, she's home. Get out of the way." I used to come home from swim practice. Literally, it was like, "Eat now, or it's going to be gone because Megan's going to destroy it." So, but that doesn't serve us really well in the long run, and it doesn't give our body time to digest. So, really, kind of consciously slowing down, set down your fork, chew your food, enjoy the flavor that it is, and then move on to the next bite. It really will help you, and it helps us to not overeat and kind of be at peace with our food that's coming into our body.
Awesome.
That doesn't sound too zen, but
no, I mean it makes sense,
important.
right? I mean, if I know how many times I go out to a restaurant and it's like, oh, one more bite, one more bite, right? So just kind of being mindful of that, while you're working, makes perfect sense.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of the Blue Zones restaurants that are approved. So David goes out and he works with restaurants to offer healthy plant-based meals. So there's more choice in those restaurants, and we have about 100 on board in Southwest Florida, which is amazing. But they have things like healthy 100-calorie dessert bites. So it's like we're not looking at taking things away, but have that dessert. Or maybe you have a 100-calorie dessert, so you get the
moderation,
the treat
moderation,
that you're wanting to enjoy, but not an 18-inch piece of cake and things like that. That's just massive.
Not saying I've ever had that, but
never. What is that place that has I can't remember, but they have I can't remember. It's like a mud pie that I think if you measured it, it's like literally 12 inches tall. But anyway, I digress.
So, one of the things we haven't really talked about, and I know it's a big role for everyone, is, before they get to work and after they get done work, so at home. So, whether it's driving to work or, getting the family ready before work, or, you come home and you're so tired, like the last thing you want to do is cook a healthy meal or go to the gym. So what are some quick tips that, can help, all of our professionals, because, we're so busy, right?
Absolutely.
Everyone's, most valuable resource is time. And, obviously if we're rushed for time, that's when we start to make those
Stouffer's lasagna and things
Stouffer's macaroni and cheese. That's me right there.
Yep. So, and I get it, we don't have a whole lot of time, and the convenience factor is really helpful. So some of the things that I recommend doing are meal prep is something that, instead of taking every night an hour to cook, take 2 hours on Sunday afternoon and make a couple of meals, like bigger meals, and then, you can prepackage them or whatever in glass containers.
Throw them in the freezer,
in the freezer or whatever. and then eat on those throughout the week. So, even just making 2 or 3 meals, and make it, do your smart shopping. So if you're going to do something that is, if you're working on a couple of plant-based meals, go to the farmer's market, get enough, and if you have a head of broccoli, one dish can be a stir fry, another could be a casserole, you know what I mean? So allow the vegetable purchases to kind of trickle out, so you only have to chop it.
Multi-use out of it.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So you only have to chop it one time, but it contributes to 3 different meals. And so you'll save a lot of money that way too. So when you have food already prepped for yourself, you're not going out and buying lunch, you're not going out and buying dinner, and everybody knows, to be able to come home and have something already prepared, oh man, it makes a huge difference. So the other thing that everyone needs to consider is that just because you're not at the gym doesn't mean that your movement doesn't count. So when you're in the kitchen cooking, or you're folding laundry, or you're mowing the lawn, or you're chasing your kids around, that's still...
Or your dog.
Right, yeah. That's still kind of what we consider like non-active activity, where you're still burning calories, but you're still using your body in a way that behooves it, but it doesn't have to be on a treadmill.
Right.
So another reason for having a dog, you got to get out there and walk your dog. You can bring your kids with you, things like that. That all still counts. So part of it is just being kind to yourself, you know what I mean, and not allowing yourself to feel the guilt of not being able to go for a 5-mile run. That's not always realistic.
Right.
But the other thing I will say...
I don't think I can make 5 miles.
The other thing I will say is be conscious of the time that you are actually spending on a screen. So we tend to, as Americans, say, I don't have time for that. But I just watched, all of season 6 of Game of Thrones. Well, if you had time to do that, then maybe you did have time to do some other things. And at the end of the day, do you feel better after sitting and binge watching, or would you have felt better to go for a walk or do some
more productive
stretching
stuff,
or things like that? So maybe spend a couple of days just tracking, or make a pact with yourself for, I'm not going to have any screen time after 7 p.m. and just see how you feel.
Get off the phone.
You know what I mean? Yeah, because study after study shows that brings down your anxiety, your stress and depression, and get away from a screen for a while. But you might find you have a lot more productivity, and a lot more calm in your life if you're off your screen.
Awesome.
So important pieces. But the other thing too is, in addition to that kind of non-active activity, is and being kind with yourself, is to keep in mind that 30 minutes is the same as 3 10-minute little blocks of exercise. So you don't have to go out and move for 30 minutes straight. You can get the same exact benefit of doing, wake up and for 10 minutes I'm going to do some jumping jacks and some push-ups and sit-ups, and then maybe at lunch you do 10 more minutes and 10 more minutes at the end of the day. Your goal should be 150 minutes of activity throughout a week. So breaking it down is just as effective at, and you might not sweat as much, so you might not need that shower and all the extra production that goes with it. Just take the time that you can make and take it as is, and then, appreciate yourself and thank your body for doing that. But at the end of the day, we go through a lot. So be kind and be in harmony with your body. Don't fight it, but listen to it too. And that's, I think, an important piece of taking that screen away, is then you can hear your body and what it's telling you it needs.
Yeah.
Important piece.
Awesome. Well, this has been great. I've certainly learned a lot, and I know hopefully our listeners learned a lot too. If they're looking for any more tips about how to stay healthy, whether it's through food or de-stressing or exercise, how can they learn more about Blue Zones, and how can they get more plugged in?
So the easiest thing they can do is go to Blue Zones Project of Southwest Florida, which is our website. You can register to become an approved worksite or school or restaurant organization. Which is awesome, by the way. Yeah, so awesome. But for worksites, I can come out and we can start a pledge packet. We'll go through and see what you are already doing, and then what you could do to become an approved worksite. Generally, you'll see huge savings on your health insurance, more productive employees, less call out on sick, days and things like that. So hugely beneficial to your workforce. But we can come out, and everything that we do with Blue Zones is absolutely free, which is a huge piece of it. And then if you want to learn more about Blue Zones in general, you can get on YouTube and watch Dan Buettner's TED Talk on how to live to be 100. I highly recommend it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Chamber Chat. Don't forget to tune in next Tuesday for a brand new episode. You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms. Don't forget to subscribe.